like that, Craig. Consciousness core. The core of consciousness is compassion. Compared to willpower.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. What a difference, eh?
Mm.
Compassion compared to being right.
Mm-hmm. That's where that saying comes from. Do you want to be right or do you want to be kind?
Compassion is not easy.
Initially, it's not.
Hmm.
And the more you practice it, the more it shows up.
Yes, thank you. That's the consciousness.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like when you make space for it to be there, then it comes knocking at your door more and more often.
Yep.
And then it becomes your automatic.
It is not my automatic.
It wasn't mine. I don't know that I could say it is an immediate one now, but I certainly am able to swim in it a lot more than what I could. I've got almost 20 years more practice than you, Jason.
Hmm.
You are getting there though, Jesse.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched it day after day. It's not something you just dive into.
You've got to let the chips fall first.
Yeah, exactly.
compassion deepens and broadens life,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
love, and inner laughter.
Mhm.
And that's what is compassion. How does one know they've got it? They're doing it. They're being compassion. It could be for anyone. What is the definition, the meaning?
The experience of it. For me, it's like a stillness that's that harmonizes, and there can be an experience of deep pain present, but that pain is surrounded by light.
Mm.
And I love the Tibetan's term of loving kindness. When you translate their word into English, that's what it translates as, their word for compassion.
You want to be right or loving kindness?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word that's used in the Psalms to talk about that attribute of God. Loving kindness. In fact, there's one that's translated this way. It says, "Thy loving kindness is better than life."
Hmm. The other way that I think of compassion, and I say think because there are times when I know that I need to be standing in it, and I'm off kilter and I can't do it in that moment. And then so I had to think about, so what are the steps for me? And the final step is embracing all that is. So it's embracing the contrast, surrendering to contrast.
Deeper into the I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or farther into our ego and head.
I don't know if I heard you correctly, Jess, but for me, it would be on the other side of the ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then still the learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's self-compassion.
Which is where it has to start before it can go out.
I believe that, yes. And it's certainly what I've seen. And go back to that notion of the first point of structure needs to have integrity. And each point has got a unique and different structure. And if we can work with that structure without judgment, then we can put ourselves into a creative structure in our relationship to the next point.
Fight to be right. Or loving kindness.
Mm. Which is willpower as opposed to alignment.
Yeah.
And I've talked a lot in this past year about finding your own true choice. Like your inner North Star. You know, that's alignment that I'm talking about.
What else do we do in place of compassion?
Mm. Avoid. Push.
Protect.
Yeah. Which we often do through avoiding.
Resist.
Yeah. Take it personal. Which speaks to a lot more attachment to our ego. And compassion is also trust.
Mm.
Allison, could you repeat the question?
Jessie asked, What else do we do other when we're not being compassionate? Is that right, Jess?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Sometimes we vocalize it, our state.
Mm.
Say more about that, Nettie.
So if it's chaos, it's the first thing that comes to me. If we're not compassionate, and let's say we're in a chaotic state, we may vocalize through sounds or words how we perceive things.
Mm.
And it might be frustration and it comes out as anger. It might be frustration and it comes out as sulking. We may physically do something. We may throw our hands in the air and just walk. We may go to the gym and do something physical that way. We may take a hand and slam it on the table. These are just things I'm just coming up with, not necessarily that I do all these things.
Love you,
Because
Annette.
that would hurt the hand. That's the thing. I think I did it once, and I don't do that again because I hurt my hand. But then we may catch ourselves, depending on where we are at. We may catch ourselves and stop ourselves and just sit in it.
Very good.
There's a lot to be said about just sitting in it.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Is there a lot to be said, or is there a lot to be experienced?
Well, there's a lot to be experienced too.
Oh, yes.
I spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks just processing stuff. And, for me, that's just sitting with things. Just being totally mindless and just sitting with the energy of it.
It's like you cocoon yourself away.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. If one is not compassionate, there's got to be another side other than that. Doing nothing.
Yeah.
Not requiring the need to know. And for some, Allison, and I might be going out on a limb here a little bit, but for some people, they may have difficulty even experiencing the compassion.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's a huge factor.
Is if you have somebody who blame shifts all the time. And is avoidant to partake, even in conversations of maybe discomfort or pain that somebody else has expressed that they bring onto them. So we're kind of thinking that one has to have a little bit of compassion in order to be able to actively be involved in a conversation. And actively, I mean being open to.
Yes.
But then there's a difference between hearing somebody and listening to somebody. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's many steps. It's like a giant jumbo puzzle.
It is. I
No wonder
agree.
people get frustrated.
Yeah.
Because there's also, when somebody is speaking, the other person may be forming an opinion. So they're not really listening. They're hearing them forming an opinion, but they're not really listening. Because their
Yeah.
opinion is more important than the words that the other person is saying. So there's no compassion or very little compassion at that point.
And that's the need of the ego to make sure that it's got the full power, right? Because of the fear of what could happen if it didn't. And that's where our automatics lie. And that's all tied up with the nervous system and those trillions of interactions that we have in our childhood with our caretakers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A couple of days ago, in conversation with somebody, I mentioned about how I had experienced and also read about when somebody says, "Hey, we need to talk," how the nervous system then goes into its own mode of defense, and then its own messaging. Oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
I just experienced one of those a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I went, oh boy, this is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But we can untrain that. And I say train.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Because what I did with my one son, I told him about this revelation that I had, and it was backed up with information that I had heard. So that's how the revelation came about. And so I said to him, okay, I'm going to once in a while say that, hey, I need to talk to you. And just sit in it and basically say then something like, okay, what is it? So, and because prior to this, I'll back up a little bit. I said those words to him and I could see it in his face all of a sudden, like deer in the headlights, right? And then I asked him, what are you feeling? And I tried to get him to break it apart. And yes, it was that very same thing. And so what I then deliberately talked to him about was something that wasn't going to be anything negative. And then told him about my revelation and so forth. And so for the next few weeks, once in a while, just out of the blue, if I did want to say something to him or talk to him about whatever, I would say that, and he would deliberately stop himself and then just turn and say, okay, what is that, Mom? Yeah, what you got, Mom? Right? And relax through those words. It's actually really good now. I can say that. I can say other things too that are along that line. Yeah, we need to chat, or we need a few moments to chat. and in the end, those are just words, but it's our upbringing, our nervous system, what our parents or caregivers said that created that tension. But it can be unlearned.
That is a beautiful demonstration of attenuating and change in terms of how you facilitate change to the nervous system.
Yeah.
The neat thing about that is, as I was doing this with him, he would do it back to me out of the blue. And I was calming myself down too. So it had a dual effect.
You've got an amazing son, Annette.
Oh, I do. I've got some amazing boys.
Marriages can be like that too.
Yes, they can.
It's not how they start
No.
for most.
Yeah,
For me,
so usually they don't.
the first time around. But it
What
can be
is-
the cornerstone. Go
what
ahead,
is-
Annette.
I'm just wondering, like, what could it be the first thing that wavers in a marriage? Is it respect? Because when people come together and they get married, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, and some of it might be assumption. They're on their best behavior with one another. But what is it that
We're
goes
in,
first?
let's play that through, and we are living out what we believe, what we think are reality of what that marriage needs to be and how to be it.
And it's one's own integrity on what you then stand for. And it becomes also your belief and value system. Maybe it's the other way around. Your belief and value system is what identifies your integrity.
And we like to attack that integrity. And we like to hide it, hold it, protect it. And it requires to be open.
Hmm.
Dynamics, conditions change, right? Things get swept under the rug. Wounds fester. Practices, ways of doing things continue, compound positively and negatively. In my case, with no true with not to harm. But when it breaks, reveals itself, it is taken as harm. It can be taken as intentional, as hurtful, as harmful, as
So when somebody says, and this was said to me, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Just, is it them trying to get you to look at behavior, or is it them trying to conform you?
You can usually tell by the tone of the question. The vibration in the voice, right?
Because that comment was made to me days after my husband, or ex-husband now, announced that he was leaving. And I took it as maintain my integrity. And I did. But that same person has excluded me from their life. This is my eldest son. So it makes me wonder what was in that comment, if that was something that I was to conform to, or is it just a saying he heard and he was just passing it on? Because he was saying it to me, and now I'm wondering if he probably should have said it to himself too. Now I'm putting passing judgment. Well, life's just too twisted. We should just, just make it up as we go and just live a life we love. There we go. Sounds easy.
Make it up in compassion.
There you go.
Because you can see it from two different ways, whether I'm right or whether it's through kindness.
And it's so easy. It's easy to be compassionate.
It's vulnerable.
Yes.
That means surrendering. That means losing.
For somebody that has the need to win all the time. Yes.
You need to be right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, and that is not what it is. Compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion allows for two to be right. And then a third alternative exists then, a new option between the two exist.
So what would be the difference between compassion and compromise then?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that the other day.
They've got a different different tone for me. There's a different charge to the two. One is a more constrictive than the other. But I see a same my orientation to the two words.
Mm.
Compromise, here's where I say, look at it. A compromise says I'm going to pick one of the two. Compassion says we're going to blend the two into a new one.
I like that. And compromise also for me is when there's still that need for to cling, right?
Mm.
But it also speaks to the person that feels compromised. It speaks to their experience of a lack of their own integrity. In other words, they gave something away that their intuition was saying, don't do it. So in that moment, they stayed with they might have stayed with their instinct, but they couldn't hear the intuition loudly enough to say, it's okay, you don't have to do this. You're going to be fine if you don't do it. So it speaks to a different positioning.
Yeah. Good morning, Pascal.
Good morning, Jesse. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Pascal.
Good morning. Good morning.
Interesting subject.
Because that brings me then to my next question. What's the difference between conflict resolution and conflict deconstruction? They're similar, but one, the issue's still there, but it's pulled apart, so to speak. Kind of that agree to disagree. But with resolution, it becomes the compromise.
Yeah, but you see, that's where I feel it's different.
Okay, that's where I'm questioning that. That's what I said. Does it really though?
Yeah, okay. So in my mind, Annette, a resolution is a resolution. It's not a compromise because of what I said before. For me, compromise is when people are losing something that they still need. So they're sacrificing a part of themselves that they actually should not sacrifice. That's compromise. But that's not how it's used in the English language necessarily. In the English language, compromise can be seen as a very positive thing and would be seen as part of resolution.
And they step towards compassion.
But
it doesn't have to just stay there. It could move to another. Oh, compromise means in that Allison I hear, it's like, oh, that still doesn't address your integrity. You're what you want. So circling back around to it to say, because it can always be included, but we're choosing to exclude it. And in the conflict deconstruction. I see a conflict deconstruction as a reflection, usually of the resolution. Like the resolutions come done, and then it's a deconstruction of it. Now, it doesn't have to be. You could be in the middle of it and reflect, deconstruct it back. But again, it's like problem solving. It's like, oh, let's problem, then solve. Then what do? We
Mm,
problem and solve.
mm,
Because it's, if we're going to deconstruct, we're going to go back through the same steps. So it's the same thinking that got us through it is what we're deconstructing with. And yes, sometimes we see it differently. That's the best way. We can see it differently. We can see a different perspective, which is what a compromise is. It allows for a different perspective, which means compassion allows for different perspectives. Blend them together and say, oh, we can both, like it together. It can be this, the together, the narratives, the intentions. This is what we want. So if we solved all of our problems, would you have what you wanted? If you were right all the time, would you have what you wanted? If you could solve your problems and be right, would you have what you want? The answer would be yes to that one.
So here's a question. Are we born with compassion, or is it something that we have to learn?
I think it's a both and. For me, we definitely are born with it. But the extent to which it can prevail depends on the environment. And sometimes not, you know. There often are people that really do survive a very, very destructive environment. And when I say survive, I mean they come out with compassion, and that's in their, it's so strong in their DNA that it just remains there no matter what they get to face. No matter how much shadow there is, put it that way, to use that language. But for the most part, sorry, Craig.
Yeah, and I think that depends on if it's fostered or if it's discouraged in the environment.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't depend on that. That's the exception. You know, and all of us, I'm sure, can point to people that we know about or that are in our social environment, and you just shake your head and you think, how the hell did the person get through what they got through and be what they are?
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, the way that my little brain makes sense of that is that this is just one lifetime. It's not the only one. But that's how I've made it up. And I borrowed that makeup. I didn't come up with that idea on my own.
Yeah, at our core level, like we have compassion. Are we born with it? That's depends of conditioning, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you guys were talking about compassion and compromise, but I would put like also care in it, like care versus compassion. And compassion to me is like, if I see it with energy, is you keep your energy. You just have compassion. But when you're caring for someone, like you're giving energy. And compromise is the same thing. When you compromise something, then like you're kind of splitting your energy. So when I feel the words, there's a constriction with care. And like, in our society, like care is a really good thing. But like, how many people, they're a caregiver, but they're sick because they give too much of themselves. There's no detachment between the person that they care and their person.
Those are very important distinctions.
Yes.
Because the irony of it all is that when you're with somebody who is in full alignment, which for me is the capacity to be compassionate, and when you're with somebody like that, you feel cared for. And they don't even have to be completely in full alignment, actually. I mean, when I think about it, oh gosh, so there was this lovely letter that I came across on a post that was written by Ram Dass. And he talks about this, about how do we navigate our way along the way to becoming enlightened, because we can't not interact. His point was, we can't say to somebody, well, I can't give you food right now. You're going to have to starve for a while until I'm enlightened. It was really beautiful. Let me just quickly, I'll find it quick. I put it in heart-centered group. Okay.
Good morning, Sindrell.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder.
So it goes like, sorry.
it goes like this. Are we in Eureka, Big Sun, Venice, something else, and Ann Arbor motel room, or are we in each other's hearts? We are all the family, he does with capitals. So every time we go behind the veil of differences in time and space, who do we meet but ourself, in capitals, hanging out all over? As we dance around the globe of light, may we never thirst. So I've actually mixed two things up with each other. It must have been another thing of his that I was reading as well. Sorry. But the question there was, are we in a place or in space? And the answer is both. So I'm sorry, I've like completely derailed something here. But to go back to what you were saying, Pascal, about care.
Good morning.
And
Yeah,
compassion.
You yourself. Happy New Year. Sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah.
Happy New
Year. So care. Okay, so I was talking about the experience of being with somebody who's fully aligned. In other words, with somebody who's enlightened. They don't give their energy away. But you receive that, the power of that vibration is completely palpable. You feel it in every single cell of your body. But at the same time, I've had many experiences with people in my social circle that at that moment they're able to be completely aligned in themselves. And I can feel it. I feel that compassion, as opposed to somebody that would come in and reorganize because things, for things to be right, they have to, or for things to work, they have to be right. And I guess that's what I could learn in having to allow myself to be in a position of not being in full power. And you feel the difference in terms of how people take care of you. So that I appreciate that distinction, Pascal.
Good morning, beautiful souls.
Good morning, Sandra.
Good morning.
I'm feeling a full realm of discovery in compassion, and in the compassion, the discovery, the openness of it is this whole exploration of care. So as you were talking, when you said about taking care, and then I reversed it of how it feels to remember being taken care of, whether it's someone serving you a
a plate of food or opening a door for you or just making sure your chair is comfortable for you is such a consideration. To be taken care of from a one heart to another with no strings attached. And to be taken care of, it takes me to so many things. But I just got this light of Jesus showing the humility. If I don't wash your feet, then you'll have no part of me. So the washing of feet is showing such a compassionate care in the washer, the humbling, and then the honor of like graciously receiving and being humbled to have your feet washed. It doesn't matter that your feet are dirty or where you've walked in life. You're a soul, and for your soul to be cared for, shown love.
Yeah, Cinderella, you said it. No string attached. Caring for someone, but no string attached.
Mm,
So like no expectation.
yeah.
If I say I'm a healer, you can be a healer, but if you have expectation that you're going to heal people, then all your energy is there. And it comes back to what we were saying, like put yourself in a box as a healer and put your patient as a box. So there's no expansion.
Mm.
And Audrey was talking about something that I was still grasping. He was talking about sympathy, and he says that's how we catch things. So we put our drawbridge down. So when, say, like, my son's sick or my wife is sick, we sympathize for them. So we take a little bit of their, you'd say, sickness on us. And he says that's how he said, forget about viruses and all that stuff. Like, he said, when you sympathize with someone, that's how you get it. And it's not an easy thing. I haven't had a cold for probably 7 years, maybe 8 years. I don't know. Like, I can't remember when it was. And then my wife was, she had symptoms, and then like my son had symptoms, and then like you're trying to care for him, and then like you're always with him and making sure he's okay, and then even though, well, I learned it actually just after, but like I had the symptoms too.
Mm.
So I'm not saying it's right, you know what I'm saying, but I'm just like bringing a new thing out there. What if? And we were talking about like being right, and then now these days almost want to not be right because because I learned something. Otherwise, like,
Yeah.
what did I learn? You know, being right.
I'm unpacking everything you just said. Did you say you had a cold for like 7 years?
Yeah, I haven't had a cold yet for probably 7 years. I don't know. It
Oh, you
might have
have
been 10 years.
you have not had a cold. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
haven't had. Yeah,
Okay. So did you say that when you sympathized with your wife or child that you caught a cold?
yeah. Well,
Okay.
I don't know if it was a cold. I have no idea what it was, but I just had no energy, coughing a little bit.
Okay, so you exhibited the symptoms when you sympathized with them. So no, this
Yeah,
is really big because I want to be able to, in my mind, I want to be able to extend concern, but I want to do it with a veil of self-compassion, not to receive their dis-ease. One, because it's not beneficial for me to feel that to exhibit the symptoms of that dis-ease. But if I contract it and multiply it, I'm going to turn around and reflect it back to others around me. So how can I end it? How can I be aware first of that capability? I think it comes by intention, clear intention to, I get empathize and sympathize mixed up. I think that's where the key is, to empathize for the condition that someone has, but not sympathize it where I end up synchronizing it with me and integrating what I don't want, growing it and keeping it vibrant. So it's kind of like gossip. Do you gossip back with the person in conversation, or do you cease it?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any input there? I'm
well,
reaching.
I'll say something. One big one. It's we spell ourselves and others, right? I'm sick. Yes, you are. You know, you said it. You know, I have a runny nose. Yes, you have. You know, so if you say, "Oh, I was so sick," da 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 da, da, or "I was sick," or "I'm sick," then people, yeah, I think that's when they can sympathize with you and take the burden a bit from you. I think our words are so powerful. It's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I see a side Pascal, where
Tell
the
me if I'm
person,
wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
no. There's another side to this where people are searching for compassion, and they will say it because they're looking for something. And if you don't give it to them in the way that they're searching for, there's an automatic response of, well, you don't care. When in fact you do, but the level of compassion isn't what they were looking for.
I'll say this for in what you've said and in what Sandal and Pascal were talking to. For me, the difference in the care or the sympathy as opposed to compassion is that in compassion, you support the strength that you know is existent in that person.
Yes.
You do that in your attitude, right? And even if that means that that person is going to die. And that you learn in palliative care. So it's that, so like what's on the edge of how we care, how we sympathize, how we give empathy. That's always, it's like you dance between, right? Because sometimes you do, you just do, you join with that person's pain for a minute or two. And then you circle out of it and you come back and you stay with what you can experience of that person's strength.
It would be their dignity too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the people that works in these palliative places, I think they're able to do it because they have a complete detachment. Otherwise, they would be so depleted. It would be not even funny. And the the practice that we can all do is like, how do I feel before? It doesn't matter what it is, like my wife was talking like, oh, like I watched these murder videos about like parents that kill their children and stuff. And
Right.
she was like, oh, how can they do that? And this and that. And I was like, okay, how does it make you feel when you watch that? And she's like, oh, bad. Like I feel like I have no energy and stuff. And my answer is like, why do you watch it?
Mm.
Obviously, you're not detached from it,
Mm.
right? Do you watch it like just like a boring movie, or like you watch it like you have all your energy towards it?
Pascal, as you were saying that, I had the same response. Why are you watching it then?
Yeah, and I don't think she heard that before. So it might have triggered something in her. Because to me now, my energy is so precious that like I put my energy where I want something to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm watching like these, Reacher, I like that, and I like Blacklist. I mentioned that in his call. But I do it in a way that like I'm completely detached from it. It's a practice, you know. I'm not saying like it's always amazing and then like I feel good watching a show, you know. Most time. You know, in the beginning I was just like, oh, this is so dark, it's so hard to watch, and now like, you know, it's doesn't affect me as much. And I have joy watching it. Not that I'm saying this is right or wrong, you know, like what she was watching, but I detach from it.
One of the first things I did in tempering down the chaos in my life was to stop watching TV
Mm.
and stop listening to media. I had the cable service disconnected. And so if I go on the computer, it's then my choice if I choose to listen to or watch something on there, and I typically don't. And it has allowed me to, I can use the word meditate, just do things in my home, just typical things, vacuum, whatever it is that you do. And without the constant background of this information that you get, this the sense of fear, because for me it was a lot of fear that was being projected that I felt I was picking up. And now, because I stopped this like 2 years ago, now I can turn on the TV, and if something comes on, let's say CNN or wherever it is, CBC, whatever, I can watch it and I find I'm so detached from it. It's like I had done a fast.
Mm.
You know, when you do a fast, then you don't have that need to eat sugar or that desire to eat sugar. But for me, I can watch it and it goes in one ear and out the other. I see it from a different perspective and I don't get attached to the stories or the horrors that they're showing. Now, one thing I did find out recently was on frequencies, and that some media outlets will run frequencies on specific stories in the background that are below what humans can hear in order to give more of a shock and awe effect to the story. But by turning off the TV and turning off the radio when it came to news time and all that stuff, now I turn it on, I listen for the first part, you know, and I turn on the local news. It's shorter, talks about local things going on, the weather, road traffic, and that's all I really want to know, that I need to know. Because frankly, all the other stuff I find out anyways. You just have to go to the grocery store and you hear it everywhere. People talking about the stuff everywhere. So, so if you're standing in line, you already know what's going on somewhere else in the world or whatever. And then of course, if you go through YouTube, you see the shorts in the media outlets and their top lines and all that. So it's very quickly you can figure out what's going on. But we can train ourselves to disconnect. I find it so cool that you talked about the dark there, Pascal. That was cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then I think it's cool that you said how the news have put certain music or sounds below our acknowledgement to hear it. But and yet they do it in movies like all the time. There's big business in the score of music that's played with theater, with movies.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one example. This week, I've been watching Godzilla movies with my one son. And the other night we watched the Japanese version of Godzilla. And their acting is different, a different style and all that. And it was spoken in Japanese with the English subtitles. But when it came to, and I really noticed this on the music part, when it came to that most intense part of the movie, it was classical music that they were playing. Dramatic classical music. And I said to myself, oh my God, listen to the music. It's not going with what is happening because we're so patterned into that music from Hollywood that they put into these most intense moments. But yes, music is used for that too. Great mention.
Yeah, most music is tuned to like 440 hertz instead than 432. And more people are tuning back to 432. But yeah, the news I stopped about 10 years ago. I mean TV. And but yeah, like usually like one person asks like what is the frequency of healing? And he says like I'll give you two answers just to be annoying. So it says like you can tune your chakra. That's one way to do it. But he said the real healing frequency, it's not here by the human ears. So like you said with the media, I mean, nobody would say, well, you know, like they were playing it. Could you hear it? Seriously? No, we don't hear it. And then they incorporate in like their message, tell their vision. And we buy it. And it's usually like at the end of the night when our subconscious is most vulnerable just before to go to bed. And then we ruminate on these news, thoughts, whatever, all night long. And then we wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't understand why. I slept like 8 hours. Well, you never took a break. You never disconnect. So to me, detachment is number one. We have to detach from what's going out there. Because what's in here is the reflection of out there. but they always make you look out there. That's their fear, right? If you look in there and then you work on yourself, then it will reflect out there. Morning. Happy New Year. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, that's right.
So, Pascal, I've forgotten your dog's name.
Poncho and Tori.
Okay, so please say Happy New Year to Poncho and Tori for me.
Oh, absolutely.
And I wish you guys all the best for the new year. And I'll see you on the new year in the morning, I hope. I have to leave for today. Thank you so much. Love you
Thank you,
guys.
Allison.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Allison.
Allison.
Bye, Allison.
Any closing desires?
Today, I will be aware of emotions, instincts, compassion, and be aware of that healthy boundary to have compassion without taking on the ills of the pain. I'm gonna play with that today in my awareness.
Sounds like fun.
Nice soup. Nice soup.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Healthy boundaries.
Thanks, Sindrell.
Yeah, and
This
I'm
has
just
been a
gonna,
healthy conversation. Thank you.
yeah, I'm just gonna restate the statement we made at the beginning of this conversation. It was the core of consciousness is compassion.
Yep. It's who
Thank
we
you,
are.
Craig.
Yeah.
For me, I am sitting really comfortably in gratitude.
Mm.
And for that reason, I'm just going to make it up today. Anyways, goodbye, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, all. Thank you.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Talk again soon. Bye.
Happy New Year. Love and
Happy
hugs.
New Year, guys.